very much excited to have Mr. Josh Tatum joining us. He's also with G&O Inc. So, Josh, I think you graduated from North Carolina State University, Wolfpack. Currently oversee business retention and expansion efforts with G&O Inc. What does that look like? What does that mean to us lay folk?
Yeah. So good evening, everybody. It's good to meet you all. Excited to be here, and thank you again, Mike, and the whole community here, and everybody that's really supporting what's happening from economic development. And retention is a key piece of an expansion as well. And so what we call the business retention and expansion work, which is to support existing industry and businesses here in the region and navigating what those opportunities, whether that's net new customer, B2B opportunities that are across the state, really tapping into those markets that might not currently have those relationships, but also real estate support, so if looking to expand your footprint, as well as navigating those incentive opportunities that the state might have, or federal as well. So we do a lot of that, those navigation, and really helping you navigate what those opportunities are. That's what BRE in a summary means, but we do a lot of attraction work. And I think that's a real key of tonight's conversation as well, is really being able to make ourselves competitive in that world, and when we're looking to attract new industry and particularly new investments. And that's really at the core of what G&O Inc. looks to do, is to really continue to invest, attract new investments, as well as support businesses that are looking to make their money stay here and really grow their ability to grow and create jobs.
Nice, fantastic. And I guess we can take it one step further. As far as G&O Inc., what's that charter, or does it go beyond what you were just talking about in terms of G&O Inc. as a whole? What's y'all's mission, or what do y'all aim to accomplish here in the greater New Orleans area?
Yeah, so every day changes with the wind some days, but at the core of what we do, it really is on two fronts: to create jobs and to create essentially money in people's pockets. And how you do that is on kind of two fronts. One is you can do the fun stuff, which is the attraction at work. When you get a project, you're able to land it and really keep going, and the site development, working with folks like yourself, engineers, getting sites ready for dirt to turn tomorrow. That's the key to any success, is a community that has ready for dirt tomorrow. And I mean dirt meaning what's under the ground, what's on top of the ground, and what can go on top of the ground. The more we have that, the more competitive we can be, and that's the world we live in business development. But a lot of the important work that we do too is looking at the business environment in which businesses can thrive. And so that's through policy, making sure we have business-friendly policies in Baton Rouge as well as Washington, D.C. So we have a team that goes to D.C. and well as Baton Rouge to lobby for business-friendly policies, incentives, as well as we have a team that looks at talent and workforce. So we can have the greatest sites, but if we have nobody to work for the companies, we're not doing our job. So we have a team that works closely with our higher education institutions like Nunez Community College down the road. Dr. Tina Tinney is a key partner in our work, particularly in standing up aerospace programs, maritime industry, and advanced manufacturing. So we work closely with them to align what's happening in industry so that they can come up along and be ready and be nimble for what the demand is of tomorrow. So once we have, good paying jobs, good dirt, investments, and capital flow. And capital flows where people feel the most comfortable when they're making those capital investment decisions. And that's what we want to make that business environment friendly for that capital to flow here.
Nice. And yeah, Nunez is doing some crazy stuff. I feel like every time I turn around, there's some new program. You mentioned the aerospace stuff. It's just unreal. One question, it's not even in my notes, but as you were talking, it made me think, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Do the jobs come first and the people follow? Is it vice versa? From an economic development standpoint, how does that work?
Every community has their different stance. I'm a believer in you have to have put the cart before the horse sometimes, and I give a good example, and again, maybe it's going back to my North Carolina State days, but it worked, is that you had Research Triangle Park. The only thing in Research Triangle was tobacco and pottery. That's all that was there. In Raleigh, Durham, nothing. All downtowns were just old tobacco warehouses and pottery warehouses. very industrial, same type of situations that we see today in post-industrial world. What they did was they did exactly of investing in land. The state was strategic to buy 500 acres in between three universities, North Carolina State, UNC, not a blue fan, so I don't like those color blues of UNC and Duke. So you had those three universities in the middle. They invested in 500 acres. That was state-owned property. The first movers were IBM that came in, and when I say they invested, I mean they had the infrastructure, had the dirt, they were ready, and you had IBM. There was not as many engineers there as well at the time. So what did the state do? They also invested in higher education as they were investing in infrastructure. And then they made the case, the pitch to say, IBM, if you come, you're going to be the first mover and shaker. Guess what followed after that? Bayer Crop Science. Guess what followed after that? Now you see Apple building their second campus today. So that's almost 50 years of investments that the state made. And so I think, I'm a believer in you have to sometimes put the cart before the horse, because you have to make the strategic investments today that you will benefit from the return of tomorrow. And that's one for your children, grandchildren, and those to be able to have those jobs and stay here, but also if you made those investments today in infrastructure or a site or what it is, it's a trickle effect to other competitiveness opportunities for sites to come. Because if you can make one site competitive in your community, people see what can be in another site. So that's, I think, my philosophy. Some people look at it a little different, but I think that's a winner, particularly today in economic development.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I like to start maybe 30,000 feet and look at kind of Louisiana as a whole, and then zoom in down here specifically to St. Bernard Parish and specifically to the port. But what are some projects, either ones that have, I know there's been a lot of news about like really exciting projects, but either ones that have recently been announced or stuff that you see upcoming? What are some projects or trends that you're really excited about more for the region?
Yeah, no, and at a state level, I think what's great, and kind of going back to the example of putting the cart before the horse too, what's happened, and Louisiana invested in this, they did this in Franklinton Farms in Monroe. That was the first site that was owned by the state. And that site today, it was invested for over 20, probably 30 years now, the state invested in it, and today that's where the Meta project will go. That project is phenomenal, transformational opportunities that we're even benefiting from an economic development standpoint in New Orleans and the region here, even though it's in Monroe. And the reason why I say that is because it's an outward illustration to the business world that Louisiana can be competitive and know how to actually put a deal together. I think a lot of people in this room are real estate folks. You got to be strategic and know how to put the deal together. And that's, in our world too, it's so competitive because it's not only politics, it's about how you can put the deal together that benefits the people, benefits the local people, but also benefits tax revenues as well as the jobs that could come, as well as the company to be able to see how they can continue that investment. Because give you the size and magnitude, I actually was up there last week and drove by it. I was like, I've seen sites, but that site made me giddy, and I like dirt. I get giddy over dirt. I don't know why. I'm not an engineer at all, nor did I go to school for engineering, but the site is the size of Lower Manhattan. That's how big this data center is. Wow. And so just to give the perspective of this, one of the largest data centers in the world, and with a very smart company, I can't even say that word, smart company, and they said Louisiana was the smartest at helping us put the deal together. That goes a long way. So guess what happened after that? Our phones were ringing off the hook to say, hey, we're a supplier to the Metas of the world. We want to be particularly on I-10 down here so we can serve north and south and east and west. And so that's where we're seeing the trickle effect from a larger state perspective of one project that's happening, Hyundai, right down the road in Ascension Parish. Another great project that really showing how the state can be competitive and put together a package and utilizing all the resources we have to be able to say who's going to benefit it. And again, the river region from even down for St. Charles all the way to Baton Rouge and West Feliciana are benefiting. We'll see some as well down here, but I think it's just, again, from a state perspective, we're being competitive and we're in the game. I would say, when I first started, the calls were not coming in as much because I think there's sometimes where competitiveness of losing sight of what a company needs goes out the door sometimes when a program is not matched to their T. And you have to be nimble. And that's what a lot of these programs today are doing, is helping us be nimble. And in the past, programs were very tied to every single word, which is great, but we know that we're all business people, business changes with markets. And so if your policies and environment of which businesses are living and making investments can't change with market demand, then you're not being competitive. So I would say the programs that have been revised through the legislature and through current administrations have really helped us to be nimble at the state level and really being able to create those deals.
Nice, that's fantastic. I remember reading, it's funny because I think it was an article from a couple of years ago in researching for this. It was a quote from Michael Hecht. He said something about we need to generate positive gravity, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what it feels like, right? It's funny because, I look back, I think that article was 2022 or something like that, but that's what it feels like is happening in South Louisiana. We have this positive gravity to finally start moving us forward that it doesn't seem like has really existed historically. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's one of those things. It's like riding a bike. If you keep riding a bike, you got to keep the momentum going. If you get stalled, you're going to start doing like this and eventually fall. And so I think that's to the point of keeping the gravity, keeping it pulling is the same as riding a bike, or just really just keeping the momentum going, because the moment we lose momentum, the moment we're off the short lists. And when you're off the short list, you don't get the calls again till probably another 8 years or 4 years of administrational change. And so you always want to be on that short list. And I'll have to say, we continue to feel that momentum, and that's the gravity he's speaking to, is being on those lists.
How much, it sounds like the Super Bowl, or it sounded like it was a resounding success, right? Everybody you talk to, sounds like it went off really well. Do you think that feeds into that momentum at all? Like, has that kind of given us maybe a foot in the door to places we otherwise might not have had?
Yeah, I would say, again, New Orleans is the best stage in the world when it comes to really hosting and being able to, as our partners at New Orleans and Company, I think their slogan says it best: we're built to host. And that's not only in New Orleans, that's across this state. Every single community just knows how to host, and that's the hospitality it brings. And I know that a lot of people say, well, hospitality is everywhere. No, it's not. It's really not. It's truly not, in a sense of being able to illustrate it through the production, through what happens here. I think there's a company here, not to FabWorks. They are really doing some great things, and there's companies like that, from small businesses all the way up, that are supporting that effort for us to be able to build to host hospitality. And I think the Super Bowl put us on that kind of trajectory. We saw the UFC fight that came right after. You're seeing the Final Four come again next year, and even though that there's been stuff in the news, we're still on the list for the next Super Bowl. So I think that what was illustrated through what could be and how we were learning from lessons shows that we're ready again.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you talked about the Meta facility, Hyundai. Are there any trends in terms of this growth? Does anything stand out pattern trend-wise of like certain industries, certain sectors? Like, is it concentrated, or is it growth across the board? What does that look like? So
I would say what's great about what we've seen come in, and both from our projects we're working at Geno Inc., but statewide is kind of in really top high growth areas, and that's aerospace and defense. And now again, I want to call out Dr. Tinney because her team is doing some really great stuff to position St. Bernard for those investments of aerospace that are looking here. And because you have NASA Mishi right across the way here, as well as some great opportunities here utilizing the canals. So that's what has really stood out for us is aerospace, because you can't ship a rocket on I-10. You can only ship a rocket on a barge. And so that's what makes us very competitive of where we're located, both between Texas and Florida. And those aerospace projects come with very high paid salaries, really clean areas, and these are great companies that are really looking at us. So I would say also defense, you have Textron located right here in Orleans, as well as St. Tammany, but a lot of the workers come from the region here. They're continuing to see increase, so that's the defense sector that we're continuing to see. And then LNG, of course, is a big game right now in the energy space, as well as a lot of the trade and logistics. So from a real estate standpoint, build-to-suit as well as some spec buildings are very needed right now in this region. So if you're in that game, I would say you could really start moving some good stuff forward, because that's what a lot of our logistics and transportation projects are looking for, is who's in your backyard building those spec buildings today that I can get my product in those buildings tomorrow. And so that's what we've been seeing and hearing, is the need for more spec opportunities. So I would say trade and logistics, energy, aerospace and defense, and manufacturing, of course. Steel projects. Steel continues to be key right now and king. Shipbuilding. Shipbuilding's another big one that's continuing to come back. We have, Avondale Global Gateway that was in Jefferson, that was employing thousands of people, as well as down in the Bayou region in Morgan City. A lot of those sites are being reused. Saronic, which is a autonomous maritime vehicle, has invested in Franklinton, Louisiana, and that they're based out of San Francisco. So you're seeing a lot of these AI advancements that are happening in the Silicon Valleys of the world, the New Yorks of the world, but guess what? They have nowhere to deploy their technologies. Louisiana is a very prime location to be a deployment opportunity, but also a headquarters of these new technologies, because, and I would say AI and what the state's doing, investing in the LAIO work, Louisiana Innovation Opportunity, really positioning us to be competitive and have those conversations with the AI companies. Those are getting us on the radar for the Saronics of the world. So I would say those are the main, key industry sectors right now.
Oh, wow. And you mentioned those spec opportunities. Do those mostly just kind of follow those big opportunities, or are there any patterns, trends, areas where, maybe we can look at forecasting and seeing that in the future?
Yeah, I would say, for us, where we're seeing the opportunity is food, being able to store food, so being close to the Sanderson farms of the world. Sanderson continues to invest, so you got Sanderson in Mississippi that is starting to come down here as well. You've got a lot of the, as well as chip manufacturers. Their chips have to be in clean, cold spaces as well. So cold storage is king these days, and we continue to get a flurry of cold storage. You've got Walmart, Targets, the big boxes that are continuing to need space, and I think it kind of goes to what we'll probably talk about, of course, is the port, being able to have those ready for when the port comes, and so really that opportunity allows for companies of the big boxes, of the tech firms that have chip manufacturing, to be able to bring in their products, store it close to a location like the new port or the current ports here, and be able to ship. So speculating on what can be around here is going to be key.
Nice, and that's a perfect segue. So we can zoom in down here to St. Bernard Parish. In terms of the port, where are we in terms of the status? And I think we're still waiting on the Army Corps of Engineers, but what does that look like? Do we have an idea of an ETA, or what, where we are in terms of from here to, actually starting construction?
Yeah, so again, the Corps working with the permitting process right now. I believe you'll hear more come the end of this year, first of the year. Of course, pending the government opening and keep going, but a lot of that has already been in the works. But I think you'll really start hearing a lot come the first year, and that's when those permits are in hand. That's when you'll start seeing the dirt really start moving. Anticipate Q2, first of Q2, really, I would say. But everything is still on track to the current timelines that have been illustrated. And I think what's key now too is to be able to as a collective region and body and communities to say, okay, if we're still on track, how can we be more competitive now that we can start attracting the next, say, target distribution facility? Because I would say the more we can be competitive in speculating of where we can build these next opportunities to attract those big boxes and to attract cold storage and attract that, they're going to make those investments, and it's only going to go along the same timeline as the port. And so I would then highly suggest that we have that environment that's going to have those investments come, that's going to support the port ability to continue the increase of demand. And so that's what we're seeing as well, is if we can do that, we can be more competitive of truly market demand here in the Gulf. Because if we can outpace Mobile, our only next competitor is Texas. And so if we can do that, we're setting ourselves up for pretty good success when it comes to capturing the market demand for cargo.
Yeah, and you and I were talking a little bit earlier about, I went to the UNO Economic Market Forecast Symposium. I forget exactly what it's called, but man, it was just maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I think it was 3 different people who weren't asked about the port, right? They just asked about what projects excite you, and 2 or 3 different people specifically brought up the port in St. Bernard and talked about how, one of the most, the biggest economic drivers, and one guy specifically talked about how he went to school in Charleston, and he said, I started school right when they built that port, and he said, they built the port, and then Boeing set up shop next door, and then these other dozen companies all wanted to set up next to Boeing, and it was just kind of this big anchor for a lot of growth, and property values tripled while he was in school, and he's kind of like really was excited about it. I guess what should we anticipate? And obviously this is different than the Charleston port, right? But like what could we anticipate in terms of growth like that, or what should we be looking for?
I would say that the Charleston example is the exact example that you will see here and that could be here. Another great example is in Virginia, the Port of Virginia, Newport News. Newport News used to be nothing. It was it did not have a lot of investment happening. It was, a really low income. It is not the best area of Virginia. But when the port continued to expand, it almost expanded into Newport. And what happened with that is you had new housing developments that came. You had opportunities for new jobs, and so that's what they saw as well in Newport. I'll give you an example too, back to kind of North Carolina, when that was happening in South Carolina. I was working in North Carolina at the time. North Carolina did not invest in the port in Wilmington. That was where some cargo would come in and some of the bulk as well. They did not invest, and guess what happened? Because I was working on I-95, and that's a huge corridor for cargo. All the projects that we were working, the Boeing, the Airbus, they said no to North Carolina. We had some of the best dirt in the world, but they said from a cost transportation standpoint, this outweighed what could be. And I think that's also a big piece here is, this investment and what's happening here puts us on the map again. And so I think it's going to be a trickle effect that we'll start seeing when those permits hit. And so I think now's the time more than ever for us to, from a community standpoint and regional and state, to be on the page of, all right, where can we strategically invest? What the retail locations, even from retail will go gangbusters. West Ashley, not far from where Boeing is located, in the Charleston example, that's a great example of a neighborhood that had almost zero retail, nothing happening, and all of a sudden, retail boomed, housing boomed because of the Boeing and the port expansion. So I think we have a lot of the great assets already in St. Bernard, which is awesome. They're already here. Is how can we just take the next step, positioning those opportunities for as this port comes online.
Yeah. Excuse me. And in terms of, most of the people in the room here are in real estate one way or another, right? Whether it's an agent, I see builders, wholesalers. In terms of opportunities, right? Now, and I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with somebody recently who said, hey, if and when this port comes, do we have the housing stock, right, to provide, if we have a bunch of jobs and a bunch of growth comes, do we have the housing stock? And if not, do we have the means to get it, whether it's rental or for people who want to buy a house here in St. Bernard Parish? And I think it's an interesting question. I think for homeowners, right, but we have a lot of land, we have vacant lots, right, from Katrina. I think we have the builders who can make that happen. I'm not as convinced on the rental side, right? If we have a bunch of workers come in and want a place to rent, I think it's going to really overwhelm our rental market, in a high demand, low supply side, because we have so many, and we've been pushing towards really restricting in the ability to build multifamily and commercial stuff. And so I guess, I see that as potentially an opportunity, but what other opportunities do you see for a room of real estate investors that, hey, they strike ground maybe during construction phase, and then even, once it's completed, what opportunities should we specifically in real estate be looking for?
I think what's great about St. Bernard and what's happening is that we're right in the nexus and middle here of what is going to happen too. And the reason why I'm giving this example is I think it could be really some cool stuff and strategic stuff that happens here that helps set up for even some high-end opportunities for those high-paying jobs, is different forms of housing opportunities, from high-end to workforce housing and so forth. And so I'll give you an example where I think New Lab, is anybody familiar with that new development that's happening in the Bywater neighborhood? So not far, probably 15 minutes from here, 10 minutes. Anybody heard of it? It's called New Lab. So to give you a background on it, it's the old NSA building, that the Naval Support Administration building there. That whole facility there is about to become it'll become New Lab. New Lab, look it up, it's really great stuff what they're doing. They started in Brooklyn Navy Yard. I actually went to see their space last year, and if you've ever been to Brooklyn, in the Navy Yard area of Brooklyn, again, very industrial, port, a lot of stuff happening there. The port also expanded through there, and New Lab came. New Lab is what they call a hard tech innovation campus, essentially. And what they're going to do there kind of goes back to what I was mentioning of the deployment opportunities. You have companies in San Francisco and New York and so forth that are building these technologies for Shell, for Chevron, for the Woodsize, for Venture Global to deploy on their sites, but they need a soft landing or somewhere to illustrate that. And so that's what New Lab does. They build these bays, essentially industrial bays that look, hip. They bring the cool, IPA and ping pong table and coffee like you see in co-working space. But what's different in this co-working space is you're able to actually utilize hydrogen, ammonia, some of these really large industrial type of chemicals to put through their technologies. And so that's what is differentiated than a traditional co-working space or entrepreneur spaces, because they'll have those technologies embedded into the facility that allows those deployment of technologies. So you have actually one of the first movers called Mantle, LSU grad, Australian gentleman as well, that has come to LSU, and Mantle, Shell is their customer. And Shell is also the first investor into this facility. So it's to redesign that whole facility, but with that comes high-paying jobs, and so as well as a lot of innovators that are going to come. So being only 10 minutes from there, I think there's some interesting housing opportunities of being able to be right here in the city. I mean, Araby has done a really great job. I think that's a prime example of innovation and real estate here. So I would say, I think St. Bernard, y'all have it really down pat from the Araby example, in my opinion.
But obviously there is some opposition to the port, right? And so, a lot of, some legitimate concerns, and some I think that might be a little bit overblown. But I'm gonna read a quote here from GNO Inc.'s website. It says, "Fundamentally, economic development is about creating conditions wherein businesses want to invest their capital and people want to live." And so when it comes to the port, my question, I'm sorry, this is a long question, but can we have our cake and eat it too, right? Because the opposition is, this is not going to be a place where people want to live, right? It's great for growth, it's great for industry, but it's going to destroy our quality of life. So is there a way where we can have our cake and eat it too, where it can be both a great business opportunity, but still also a place that people want to live? Is that possible?
100%. 100%. And again, I do want to reiterate, and Gino Inc., we believe there are always legitimate concerns to any project. I mean, everybody here has, if you're in the construction world or building, you're going to run into a legitimate concerns.
Yeah.
And that's something we always take into consideration. But at the end of the day, there's two fundamental things that I think everybody can agree on. Is one, we want good jobs for our next generations that are behind us. We want safe communities, and we want better things for our community. Well, in order to be safe and in order to have pretty streets and good things, you got to have more tax revenue. And in order to have more tax revenue, you have to invest in big projects that will be a trickle effect. And so I think that's a critical piece when we go into it looking, is that, okay, if this project legitimately will not bring good jobs or bring a tax base, we're not going to touch it. But we know from other regions and other areas that have made these investments, like Charleston, like Virginia Beach, they're booming. And I think South Carolina is a big example, a very similar type of environment as Louisiana. Same population size, but South Carolina probably 10 years ago it was hurting. It was really hurting. So I think that there's some good examples to be had, but again, kind of going back of eating your cake and having your cake and eating it too, and maybe having a cookie with it as well, is that I think what positions the port here as well as what we have is that there's demonstrated illustration of industry already coming and being proactive and industry investing here. And that's because of the mouth of the Mississippi and the markets that it touches, as well as the markets that can be. And so I think that's also a key of this project, is that this project doesn't only go down the road, this project will touch every single corner of the earth. And so for us to position St. Bernard and this project for that, that's literally the reason behind a global gateway. And you will have access to the more markets that are out there. And so that's what I mean by, can you have your cake and eat it too? We will have more opportunities of access to markets of folks looking at us, folks putting us on our radar, as well as being able to say, hey, and I'll give an example that I think is really key, the Hyundai project. Guess what also came with the Hyundai project? If you ever look at what's happening in downtown Donaldsonville or around there, Korean restaurants. People from Korea have started coming over and saying, hey, I want to invest in this property because I want to open a restaurant, because I know I'm going to have executives come over here. If you look at the Donaldson Chamber of Commerce, they have partnerships with Korean businesses that are looking at supply chain coming over. That'll be the same type of opportunities here, because you'll start getting those access to other markets and other areas if you have rental, commercial real estate and so forth, restaurants and so forth. But I just say that as a kind of a prime example of what could come with this project. And again, kind of going back to what I mentioned and to the quote is, capital will flow where businesses feel the most comfortable. And this project will illustrate how business can continue to flow their capital here when it does move forward. And that goes to even the mom and pop restaurants all the way up to the multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yeah. And we've heard all of the, fears and kind of worst case scenarios, but I feel like we really haven't heard the other side of that coin on what's the best case scenario, or like what could that growth look like? What could that mean? Not necessarily just for us as real estate investors, but for a regular everyday citizen of St. Bernard, like what would some of the benefits be if that everything goes through with the port?
Yeah, I mean, I think, number one, again, kind of going back, we all want a good education for our children, grandchildren, and those that come with us, or even as adults, have access to education. Again, it goes back to tax revenues. If we want good schools, we want good teachers, high-paying jobs for our teachers to get increased wages and so forth. That's a best case scenario, that we have good industry that's coming in because of the port. The port goes forward, we're able to get going. Industry's coming, we got sites, we got big manufacturers that are coming in the parish here. And so, because there's still some good other sites that can come with suppliers because of this port that are very competitive right now. I can tell you, I'm working a few and very competitive. I mean, it's really good to see the activity happening. So case number one, good schools. Case number two, Nunez gets to be able to continue to expand and have that relevancy of what's happened here, because that is a great asset that if we don't have these continued investments, we can't go and show why we need to continue to expand. And so Dr. Tenney's really positioning what's happening there for the future. And then again, good roads. You know, you gotta have the roads, and I think that's the legitimate concerns that we're all trying to really navigate, and we all know that. I mean, any growth anywhere, you're gonna have the opportunity to navigate the transportation needs, but that's, again, what I think everybody collectively agrees on and can see that vision of what it looks like. But I think that's a big piece, and then of course your housing. You know, a lot of people say, well, our housing is going to go down, or our market, or, you know, housing values, but I would fair differ. I mean, the Port of New Orleans, where it's at, that's some of the largest real estate market and highest uptown New Orleans, and that was because of strategic investments. You know, it didn't happen overnight, but it was people coming in, buying up property, being able to remodel and position it, and so I would say that good housing values, good schools, as well as good road and transportation will really set us up to have our cake. And again, we got some good crawfish and culture down here that you're able to have a cookie or king cake with it too.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something earlier that reminds me of another quote I'll read from you guys' website about this idea that, hey, look, maybe there are some concerns and some friction, right? But it is growth, right? And it's, you know, things that don't grow, they die, right? And so like we need growth one way or another. And this quote really stood out. It says, finally, economic development lets your kids stay and raise your grandkids right here. Without economic development, you have stagnation and decline, and your kids move away. And I think that's one thing that kind of gets overlooked as, you know, we talk about this growth and jobs. It's another anchor point here in St. Bernard Parish.
No, yeah, and, you know, I think a good example is that every community or every region or every state, but particularly at the very micro level, if you look at it, look at where the money's flowing. If you just have money going from one place to the other in a community, that's not economic development. You know, a McDonald's is great, a Chick-fil-A is great, all these retail, that's great. But the reason why those come is because there's net new money coming from somewhere. There's some other pocket of dollars that are coming in to allow for the market demand for certain retail opportunities. And so that's the growth opportunity. The more you can able to grow for net new dollars coming in, that will have a trickle effect of what we coin indirect growth of retail and housing stock and so forth. But again, I think the most important is positioning with St. Bernard, the port, is what are the other areas in the parish that are strategically ready for this net new opportunities of new cash flow, new dollars coming in. And the more new dollars coming in, the more new revenue from a tax standpoint, and more dollars in people's pockets from a standpoint of jobs that would come with that. So that's kind of how, you know, from a very simplistic version, how we try to coin and see that situation.
Yeah, very well said. So as we start to, I guess, land the plane, I want to make sure we leave some time in case there's any questions. I'm sure there are in the crowd. Any, I guess, kind of closing thoughts on whether it's economic development here, opportunities for real estate investors, specifics for the port, anything else that, or questions maybe that I should have asked that you can think of?
No, I mean, this is, again, I think, congrats to this forum. I mean, these are the types of forums, I think, and bringing groups like this together, one, to strategize, one, to see how we can all work together, because I like to say, economic development is a team sport. It truly is. We again, I'm not an engineer. I know there's got to be an engineer somewhere in this room. I'm not an accountant. I know I've got to have an accountant on my team. I got to have a lawyer. I got to have an engineer. And that's one thing at Geno Inc. We really try to be is called the nexus, or the brain tissue, the connectivity tissue, as Michael calls ourselves, is that is this dead space, but again, it's called the Switzerland of bringing those minds together that helps a project go through. And so the more that we can be together and really advocating for jobs and investment, the more, and having real conversations of what are the concerns, because if we don't know the concerns, we're not going to be able to advocate which way or the other. And so that's, being truthful of what a true concern is, being at the table, keeping these types of avenues of allowing tables to happen really helps us all see the end goal of good jobs and investments and a thriving economy that I think we all really want at the end of the day, and really see us as your teammate, see us as your team member when you're trying to construct a deal, because we want to be of use to you. Any data that we can help provide, I hope you see us as kind of that partner in your work as well. So, no, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic. Y'all give a round of applause for Josh.